Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching the Patreon bonus story.
Are the Patreons.
Yes,
I
you
say
are.
Patreons. Everyone doesn't like it when well, not everyone, but some people
You're our
are like,
patrons.
you're our patrons, but I like saying Patreons. You're better than a patron.
Yeah, it's
you're
an-
not
it's
some
an-
you're not some snooty like
Hello.
or what were the
I shall support you.
or who is the Medicis?
Right.
You know, you're not some like wealthy Italian family who
Maybe
owns
you
the
are.
whole world. You're just you.
Yeah.
And you're able to help support us in such an amazing way. And there's so many of you, and we're so glad. So let's just get into this.
Okay, so let's show
story.
this first. This is a Shell video that they just marketing crap. Let's see what it is.
Transport accounts for more than a quarter of the world's total energy use. With global energy demand expected to rise by 30% by 2040, the need to move more people and goods must be balanced with efforts to cut carbon emissions. In the near term, innovations in engine, lubricants, and fuel design can help improve efficiency and reduce emissions from vehicles powered by internal combustion engines. Such engines are likely to power the majority of vehicles for the next couple of decades. Looking further forward, a range of fuel options will be required to meet growing demand in a low-carbon world. With an ear to the evolving needs of our customers and society, Shell is developing other transport fuels, including biofuels and liquefied natural gas. And we're exploring opportunities for electric vehicles, powered by both hydrogen and batteries. We're working with the German government and 5 companies to install a national network of fueling pumps for hydrogen fuel cell electric cars by 2023. Ultimately, we believe in achieving the greatest efficiencies possible with the fuels and vehicles which are available today while preparing for tomorrow.
So that
great.
shows how clueless they are.
Right. They talk about hydrogen will help the transition to electric transport, which will happen someday. Again, someday, this crazy out there term. The hydrogen.
Do you know why they're so into hydrogen,
Yeah.
all these companies?
Yeah.
We talk a lot about how you can get hydrogen from doing electrolysis, right?
Right.
Which is putting basically electricity that you get from maybe hopefully a renewable source. But that's not what they're talking about.
No.
In fact, most of these companies, 95% of the hydrogen they're talking about making comes from where?
Natural gas, because natural gas is cheap. We get it out of the ground, and we don't have to change anything about how we do stuff.
See, in their mind, they equate, we already pump natural gas, we already drill it, all that.
Right.
So what's another thing we can, hydrogen. And it
Right.
sounds cool, it sounds renewable.
Right.
Green.
Pressurized natural gas is a very unpopular fuel.
Right.
Right. Natural gas in homes and stuff we're pretty used to using. But as a fuel for your car, people are like, I don't know, because it's not as great. But you turn it into hydrogen, suddenly like people are like, oh, hydrogen.
They're a green
it's
company.
Renewable. It's great. And it's like, no, it's not.
And that's
at
why
all.
Elon's so against it, because it's such an inefficient way to make energy.
Right. And if we even get to electrolysis is inefficient. So you're taking 100% renewable energy, you're putting it through a bottleneck, you're squeezing out a ton of inefficiency in heat and noise and other,
Right.
Inefficiencies. And then you have hydrogen, then you put that through a fuel cell, then you put that into a battery, and then you put that into an electric motor, whereas you could have just taken out that whole bunch of steps.
Exactly.
And you could have less
But Shell
solar,
wouldn't. Shell would not be happy with that, because that's not
Exactly.
the business they're in.
It cuts into their
And they don't want to.
money.
They don't want to change and become a different kind of company. They want to keep doing what they
Right,
do.
they could just switch to solar panels like tomorrow. They have so much money.
I know.
They could just be like, you know what? We're building the largest solar thing in the world, and
Right.
we're going to build batteries, and we're going to do this and that. But they don't, because they don't want to change, and they just want to keep making their trillions of dollars every year. Because I guess if you're doing that, why wouldn't you?
Let's talk about something positive here.
Okay.
This is the Orbis hub motor, and so for about $10,000, you can add 2 of these, one to each wheel, and so that's not including the price of the battery. The battery is probably another $2,000.
And you're adding
like
these to 2 wheels on a car.
Right, you can put them on a car, and you can put them on any regular ICE car if you want, any car basically. So here's the cool part. each one is either 50 horsepower or you can even buy 100 horsepower. So you can add either 100 or 200 horsepower to an existing vehicle for about, like I said, $10,000. It takes about an hour on each wheel to install. Pretty much they said anyone can do it who knows how to work on cars. And then you've got a street legal electric car. So you could be gas and electric, or it could be electric.
Right.
So for instance, you could take your Leaf, which
and
is
turn it into an all-wheel drive
right,
car.
because you've got two wheels that are driven in the front. If you added this in the back, you have an all-wheel drive car.
Be really cool.
Now, this is just the first generation of this. Once it starts getting out there, I've got to imagine the price is going to drop.
Right. And then you're just talking about batteries.
So check this out.
Right.
What if you started a company where you just took older cars that were in good shape, but the motors had gone.
Right.
You know, the engine was blown head gasket or something. Right. You put these on it, and you extend the life of the car.
Right. And in the exact same shop, you can do the exact same thing to people who want to get 200 more horsepower in their souped up Honda Civics. I mean, it's quite an easy thing to just be like, oh, you want to, do better on street races or whatever the heck you're doing? Sure, absolutely. Let's just bolt these on and away you go.
Yep.
I think there's so many ways. Electric is so easy. You can just plop on motors onto a wheel and then voila, you have an electric car.
I want to go to, we got a question this week that we didn't have time for, which was from a diesel mechanic. He's about in his 40s, and he said, like, what should I do in the future? Because, obviously EVs are coming.
Yeah, that's an
Call
idea.
up Orbis and become one of their dealers, because you could keep doing what you're doing, fixing diesel engines, but slowly transferring your knowledge over to this. And as people experience this, they're going to go, oh, yeah.
Right, because, you're able to actually put the electric kick into any car.
Right.
All of a sudden, you have that instant torque, and you're just like, whoa, hey.
You've already got all the tools and the know-how of how to work on cars. So that's great. You didn't lose any of that. You just are adding to your toolbox.
Right. And the thing is, you couldn't do this with a gas engine. It's not like you could just one day be like, hey, do you want more horsepower? Don't worry.
Stick it on your wheel.
Here we go. It's my name's Jake McGake, and we're going to put a new engine on your wheel. Like, that it just doesn't work.
Watch the whole video, because it's really fun to see. There's so much innovation going on in this company, and it's just exciting to see that with all this new technology that's coming out, you can finally do this. All right, that brought a smile to my face, but this brings an even bigger smile to my face.
Yeah.
Who's going to influence society the most in the long run? Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. I already have my answer. It would be Elon Musk. Think about it. As important as Steve Jobs was, no doubt about it, you have to add him to Bill Gates, because they birthed the personal computing revolution together. Here's the difference. Elon Musk is trying to invent a future, not by providing the next app. Why do I hear millennials say, oh, it would be awesome if you could pass the salt? Is that how you're using the word awesome? Excuse me. When I was growing up, awesome was applied to when we walked on the moon, when we cured disease, major societal advances. That's what we applied the word awesome to. And so what Elon Musk is doing is not simply giving us the next app that will be awesome on our smartphone. No, he is thinking about society, culture, how we interact, what forces need to be in play to take civilization into the next century. And it has to do with transportation. It has to do with space exploration. Why? Because there's unlimited resources in space. Resources that on Earth we fight wars over. In space, you no need to fight a war. Just go to another asteroid and get your resources. A whole category of war has the potential of evaporating entirely with the exploitation of space resources, which includes the unlimited access to energy as well. That's where Elon Musk is. Those are the kind of people who transform not only society and the apps that are on your computer, he will transform civilization as we know it. Elon Musk is deeply respected by everyone who works in his company, by anyone who owns a Tesla. People who own Teslas love their Tesla, all right? There aren't many cars that have that relationship with their owners. Anyone who knows and cares about space exploration knows and cares about Elon Musk. And there's a subset of them who say, other people don't realize it yet, but we are on the frontier of the future of civilization. I don't think he gets his full due from all sectors of society, but ultimately he will, when the sectors that he is pioneering transform the lives of those who are currently have no clue that their life is about to change. Go Elon Musk, and I don't care if he gets high.
For the longest time, Jesse and I have been saying that Neil deGrasse Tyson, who we really like a lot, we've kind of felt that he might be getting into that, shall we say, Steve Wozniak kind of losing his touch. Maybe he's getting a little older and not keeping up with innovation.
Feel that way. I was feeling like he was getting a little bit too much into like the corporate, like Monsanto kind of, just like, oh, but we gotta have food kind of thing.
Right. It was just refreshing to see not only that Neil was talking about Elon so highly, but this was on CNBC. And last week we asked, has CNBC flipped? I think you could argue that this is another data point showing that they have.
I'm very hesitant. I'm not going to say anything about that. I think that what happened is one of Neil's friends
got him in a Tesla.
It was like, because, I mean, Neil must have a lot of very
Come with
smart
me, Neil.
friends.
Let's go for a ride.
He's like, oh, but hey, I don't want to go. And they finally sat him down, and they experienced, and they probably went on some kind of a road trip or something, and it just probably opened his eyes, probably for one of the first times, because unless you experience that, it doesn't matter if you're an astrophysicist, you're not going to understand it until your brain understands it. I feel like you put it yourself in there.
I feel like Neil doesn't have a car. First of all, I think he lives in New York. He doesn't, and when he needs a car, he probably gets driven around. And so he when he talks about Tesla, have you noticed even here he said Tesla owners, like he's not one of them.
Right.
I think,
but he met a Tesla owner.
Yes.
One of his friends is a Tesla owner, and was like, Neil, I have to get you in this car. Got him in the car. Probably was, and Neil was like, wow, I didn't realize you guys had such an amazing, probably showed him some of the amazing stuff that Tesla owners do for each other and for the world. And he was like, wow, this is an amazing community.
Yeah. This video is pretty interesting too. Check this out.
The streets of central Paris are congested, polluted and busy. Steeped in history, they are twisted and complex for any driver. Now for the first time, a car with no driver moving the steering wheel is giving it a go. It's the latest development in Paris which is at the forefront of a transport revolution. The streets are already thronged with scooters, segways, e-bikes, mini-electric vehicles and hoverboards, all trying to find a way through and around each other. The technology is growing everywhere, with driverless vehicles being trialled from the US to China, and driverless buses have already found their way onto the straight and smooth surfaces of Paris's business district of La Défense. But the heart of Paris has remained undriven so far. Its complex streets have been capable of holding off armies and police behind barricades, and now they present a formidable obstacle to computer-driven cars. The man behind this particular experiment is Jacques Aschenbroich, CEO of Valeo, the world's leading supplier of parts to the car industry. Despite many tests of the car in Paris, he still seems understandably a little nervous in a test drive for the Financial Times.
We have done the experiment 50 times in the last few days without any problem.
He's a young engineer behind the wheel to jump in if things go wrong. Valeo's selling point is not the car, but the sensors and the software.
We have standard sensors around the cars. We have very high level of sophisticated software and embedded some artificial intelligence that help recognizing through the camera all the objects that we are seeing. Unlike maybe all the drivers, it respects the rules of the road, all of them. So when you have a speed limit, it respects the speed limits, and therefore you feel the car extremely smooth. And in such a condition, maybe you drive a little bit faster, but here it respects all the rules. And when it's allowed, it goes faster. When it has to be limited, he limits the speed. He sees the trucks ahead and slow down. He sees the traffic lights.
Being allowed to test this car on the streets of Paris requires the highest levels of authorization.
You need to have a special authorization from the Mayor of Paris and the French government to try the car fully autonomous in a very complex environment.
Basic safety and simply not killing people are the paramount concerns as autonomous cars battle to prove their worth.
Right in the middle of all the traffic, anything can happen. You are on a bridge here, and sometimes you have people crossing the road unexpectedly, and of course the car takes it in consideration and has an emergency stopping.
A real challenge for the car is a tunnel where contact is lost with the outside world, but Valeo's experiment comes through with flying colours.
We just went through a tunnel, and the tunnel is a very complex situation because we don't have connection anymore with the GPS and the real very fine localization. So car was absolutely by itself.
Valeo knows it's in a global competition with other car makers and parts suppliers, with talent and engineers key to the company's success.
We need to really convince very good engineers to be attracted by Valeo, and you have one here being a young engineer, being
Yes, 25,
25 years old,
just out of school.
out of school, attracted by such a very complex environment. And you're lucky 9 months after you joined
Yes.
Valeo, you're doing such an experiment, which is something unbelievable.
As with other such driverless car experiments, Mr. Aschenbois is cautious about the future.
The time frame for you and me to buy a fully autonomous car will take much more time, probably 10, maybe more years, because then it has to be, because there'll be no steering wheels, no pedals. It has to be fully autonomous, anytime, any place, any weather conditions.
We might still be years away from a Paris full of autonomous cars driving freely amongst the scooters and hoverboards alongside the Seine. But with this and other experiments coming soon, it's a future we are ever closer to realizing.
What's exciting to me is that we just talk about Waymo all the time and Tesla and a couple other companies here in the US like Cruise Automation. But what's going on around the world is that everyone's working on this. And Valeo is a company that looks like they've gotten quite far. They're not using LiDAR, from what I can tell. So they're using pretty much the same technology Tesla is. And they're at the point now, I mean, yes, they had a safety driver, but that car was driving itself around Paris.
Right. And I would argue that I think that that was probably a mapped route that they were taking.
Could be.
That is what I would assume. But still, it is very interesting to see a manufacturer like that working on this technology.
And people often say, well, that's fine. It'll happen, but it'll happen in 30 or 40 years. I mean, here's a guy who's saying 10, and he's probably meaning 10 regulatorily. I mean, like, he technically, it looks like they're already there.
Right.
All right, so what's this, Jesse?
So this is the Zombie 222. This is the fastest EV, basically, in the world.
Wait, faster than a Roadster? It's gonna be?
Apparently it has...
Well, show me some video. Show me some
Okay,
video.
all right. So take a look at this drag race. You can see that it is smoking that Model S.
Wow.
Apparently it has a 0 to 60 of 1.79 seconds. I don't know if I 100% believe that. It can do an 8 mile in 6.31 seconds, ending up at 113 miles an hour. That's an eighth of a mile. Quarter mile can do in 9.89 seconds, ending up at 140.6 miles an hour. And it can do 1 mile at the end, going 177.8 miles an hour.
So this is from Bloodshed Motors, and this is a 1968 fastback Mustang that has been converted. Obviously, it has an 800 horsepower motor.
Right. So a lot of you guys messaged us last week, and you said, you know, you showed us this charge thing, but like, who cares? Because it gets a pretty crappy range. It costs the same as the next generation Roadster, and its acceleration is piddly.
Good point.
Why? You know, this is the exact same looking car, and it's able to smoke a Tesla Model S.
I've said it before. I think that people who convert cars are going to be the next big trend. Like, I think you have the skills to make what people want, which is any kind of car, a classic, whatever, a new car, but having all these amazing stats, quiet, good for the environment. Like, yes.
I don't know if this one's necessarily good for the environment, because, I mean, watch, he can smoke his wheels at the drop of a hat.
Yes,
He's
you
just
should
like,
not.
yeah, don't do that.
Next time you're around smoking wheels, do not breathe that, because that is must be the worst thing for you.
It's pretty bad.
Why do Americans love that so much? Is it just Americans?
It's just
Let
cool.
us know in the comments if you're in another part of the
cool.
world. Do you like that? Like, I don't see the point.
There's Tokyo Drift, right? That
That's
movie
true.
made by Americans.
That's true.
I don't know. Let us know. Let us know if that's cool. But is it going to be cool with electric cars? Because it used to be cool because you could rev your engine
that's
a
an
lot.
electric car, and everyone liked it.
Yeah, but that's because they're very used to. Oh, I think as we continue on,
I hope we evolve.
smoking their tires is going to be like, what are you, a caveman?
I hope so.
Okay.
This might prove it, because check this out. Stephen Barrett, who's the lead researcher, he published in Nature the first heavier-than-air powered flight using an engine with no moving parts. These are ion engines. So how does that work?
So you have a positive charged wire in front of a negatively charged airfoil.
Okay. How much charge are we talking about here?
We're talking about, well, it's just 15 milliamps.
Oh, that's nothing. I can get that from.
At 40,000 volts. So that's 600 watts of power in this plane. And so basically what you're doing is you're charging these particles, and then you're kind of, these nitrogen atoms, and then they get attracted to the negatively charged airfoils.
Okay.
So basically they're accelerated backwards, which is kind of the same as if you had shot it out of a rocket engine, which accelerates you forwards.
Oh, because they're pushing air out of the way.
And they also flow air over the airfoils,
Oh,
which gives
interesting.
you lift as well as propelling it forward.
Now, I know you might look at this and be like, well, this looks kind of like, the Wright brothers plane. But yeah, the Wright brothers plane was, laughed at by some. But
right.
then,
Or you might say what I said, which is like, yeah, I've made an airplane with no moving parts. It's called a paper airplane.
But this flew.
This is actually self-propelled.
Right. And I mean, it's exciting because if we could figure out how to make it work, we're talking about planes with no moving parts and all electric.
It's very cool. I mean, I think that if you hit a bird with 400...
Well, if you hit a bird with
40,000 volts.
If you hit a bird with a
turbine,
757,
it's
you're
true.
going to kill
It's
it too.
true.
What I think is cool here is that this guy was inspired by Star Trek.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to imagination.
Yeah.
We all got our imagination excited by things like Star Trek, and that led to all of these cool innovations that we now have that,
Exactly.
that seemed like they were impossible.
Yeah.
Now, last week we talked about bunker fuel on those big shipping, tankers. And I was just reminded this week, one of our viewers sent in this video from Johan Ellison, who's an analyst for Kepler. And he basically reminded us that 8 of the largest ships that Maersk has in their fleet, which is a giant shipping company, just 8 of them emit as much sulfur pollution as the world's entire consumer cars. So that's 1 billion vehicles.
8 ships.
8 ships
just- that's-
equals the same sulfur pollution as all the world's vehicles. Now, the EU Commission expects 30 to 35,000 premature deaths in Europe due to high sulfur emissions from the marine industry.
So, I mean, I'm glad that they're able to actually push through legislation that prevents them from putting as much of it in the air. Again, the problem is that they're putting it into the ocean through the scrubbers. And I mean, yes, the open loop tanks have sludge tanks. Nothing really prevents them from dumping their sludge tanks before they get to shore.
Right. I mean, we just treat the oceans as this giant dumping
Like some
space,
kind of a
like-
magical pit.
Right.
That's
And
like,
it doesn't work that way.
We don't
And-
have this pit. If
well-
we had this pit that just went into a black hole or something, we'd be set. But we don't.
Maybe someday we will, but
Yeah.
we don't. And I just think we need to shine a light on this and say, hey, we will pay for it. Like, we should pay what it costs to move ships across the world if that's what we want to do.
Right.
Check this out, Jesse. We talked about in the regular show how Model 3 just broke a record with the e-Cannonball in Germany. Check this out.
Hi, my name is David and I want to welcome you to our world record car, the Tesla Model 3. So we did it, the world record. We made 1,629 miles within 24 hours. So for this record, we didn't go to a race course. We went to German highways, no speed limit there. The condition was pretty bad. It was raining, it was foggy, it was around 5-6 degrees Celsius. So everything but not good. But still, we could make it with the perfect, greatest car on earth, the Tesla Model 3. Right now, this is world record, but I'm sure in a few years, it will be normal for everybody to drive that long distances within 24 hours with a per electric car. So, thanks a lot to the great team of Tesla drivers who helped us in that competition. And now, guys, we had so much fun. I can just tell you it's up to you now. Try to beat our world record.
Yeah, so these guys went 1,629 miles in 24 hours in a Tesla Model 3. This is from the G Electric YouTube channel, so you should go definitely check them out. They were able to do that because they're driving on the German Autobahn.
Oh,
no speed
very
limits.
fast. Wow.
And as he pointed out, hopefully in the future, everyone with Model 3 will be able to do that in Germany.
You know
World
what?
record breaking.
You
It'll
know
be
what
everyone.
we might be able to do
What?
in the next generation Roadster in Europe
Oh my God.
is smoke that record because it's going to have like either 500. I've heard some people saying 600 miles of range,
Yeah.
which means that you just have to stop at hopefully a version 3
I know.
supercharger, top up in 20 minutes and
I-
get back on the road, go
I don't-
250 miles an hour. We're going to
I don't know.
smoke that
I mean, I'll be
record.
the navigator. because I don't know if I could drive that fast.
You'll be in the blimp. Or
I'll be in the
something. You'll
blimp
watching.
I'll
me.
be doing play-by-play.
I mean, 200. Let's say we get up 250 miles an hour.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Wow.
We're talking thousands of miles.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
We're just going to loop around Germany.
Woo!
Thank you so much for being our Patreons.
Yeah,
We're going to
you
head back
guys
to the show, but you know,
rock.
it's the best part of the week, I think.
Absolutely.
Talking to you guys.
And I mean, being able to see this show, I think I want more people to be able to see the show. That's why I pitch it so much on Tesla Time News and In Depth. This is the show.
Right.
You know, this is where we're able to actually kind of show you.
I know we started with one
everything.
story, and now we're up to, I think, to this week is like 7 or something.
Right.
So it's crazy.
It's because we always have stuff that doesn't make it into the show, either because we can't show the footage or
or we have something long to show you, like we showed you a bunch of videos that, you know.
Right. We can't put those in a video. They'll get taken down. They'll get ripped off the internet by YouTube. Having it in this setting means that we can show you everything we want to show you.
Yep.
And, you know, you're able to help support the show. And, you know, this is just so great. We have such a great community full of wonderful people. Be sure to, you know, send us messages on Patreon, and we'll talk to you again next week.